haven't been this excited over a tarot deck in a long time, and so I decided to do a walkthrough of this because at the time of the making of this video, I have not seen anybody else talking about this deck except for the person I found out about this from, Tiger's Abyss, Zach over at the Tiger's Abyss. He showed the deck in one of his live streams, I happen to be around for. And so this is shipped from Germany. I believe the artist is based in Italy. Her name sounds German, but I am not quite sure of her nationality. It's called Le Tarot de l'Étoile Cachée. My French is non-existent, so I apologize for my pronunciation to begin beforehand. This means Tarot of the Hidden Star. So the reason why I'm really excited over this is because this is an indie deck based on Tarot de Marseille. I've spoken about Tarot de Marseille at length, how that's a misnomer and that not all Tarot de Marseille is actually from Marseille. So I will put that playlist at the end of this video or up here in the eye in the sky. I personally wanted more modern deck that's based on Tarot de Marseille. I am a big fan of handmade, handcraft, the old ways to remain in place, so that people who handmade and hand painted these cards will remain, they will continue to produce. This is not one such a deck, but I remember one particular deck maker, Agnes from Cartogram, who I met through the creator of the Mamluk cards in 2018. I wanted to purchase the art edition of the Mamluk cards. Long story short, the creator of the Mamluk cards referred me directly to Agnes, who was at the time was fulfilling the production on his behalf of the Mamluk card art edition. And so that's how I got to know Agnes. And again, I have a video of that, and I'll again link it up here and at the end of this video. And I remember seeing she uploaded her image on either Make Playing Cards or Printer Studio, and I remember feeling a sense of panic where I thought she was going to close shop because not enough people were ordering her handmade decks. And you know, it involved padding paper and rubbing soap onto the paper as a way of making them shuffleable. It's the equivalent of putting lamination in the modern day, I suppose. And I remember smelling this smell of soap. So that long story is to say that all this time, ever since, I've always rooted for more production of independently crafted, beautifully crafted, modern tarot decks that is based on Tarot de Marseille, if not reproductions of older decks. But I was hungry for more modern takes that is based on Tarot de Marseille, because most modern decks that we know of today, at least in the English-speaking world, is Rider-Waite-Smith based. And so at the time I only had two, one by Victoria Dorche. I would highly recommend that you check her out. And the problem is that in this continental tradition, a lot of them do majors only, and as I do only read majors only as well. And in the English-speaking world, that is still heavily dominated by the Rider-Waite-Smith. Most people want 78 cards. And so I will again put it up in the link here or at the end of this video, at least two modern Tarot de Marseille, modern take on Tarot de Marseille, and I think if memory serve, both were majors only. It suits me just fine, but it seems for the larger tarot using, tarot reading, tarot utilizing, tarot collecting community, that might not be what is currently popular. So when I saw this, it's just a long-winded way of saying that I'm just so in love with this, and I haven't been so excited. So I owe this to Zach over at the Tiger's Abyss. The line here is very sharp, very clean, and it reminds me of etchings on metal, because perhaps that sort of metallic muted silver here against the black and combining with the really clean, very sharp lines there just reminds me of etchings on metal, specifically on silver in this case. And the combination of which is just absolutely beautiful. And so the back is reminiscent of older Tarot de Marseille there, so that's beautifully done as well. And so let's just go through the majors. I'll show you the box and the books, etc. So a bit of humor there with the naked bum scratch, and there's this very happening heels over here, and this triangle. From what I've seen of the handbook doesn't specify, like for example, what am I looking at here, right? There's this dice connected to what looked like modern device, but you see the elements here. She explained of the earth element there, fire here, water, air, etc. And that's instead of the coins, I think that's money notes. And so here as well, you see the pomegranate, you see the flower peeking there. I know what this is. This is like when you rattle. It's I think so anyway. At least that's what that reminds me of. But I don't believe the handbook specifically talk about the images and the symbols, which I wish it had spoken a bit more about those instead of telling us what the meanings are. Yeah, especially for someone like me who I no longer read meanings as such. I read the images. So having said that, if I do read the images, it doesn't really matter what they are or intended to be. It's what you see is what's important. Still, for example, let's have a look at that and whether it says anything. So the book is here, like so. It has like a drawer, the sort of old Il Meneghello type of casing there. So probably it's no accident that this is designed in Italy, like so. And then you have this very elegantly printed silver here. There's Sabat, Sabat, Sabat all in around. Blank, nothing, 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 which is how I love it. It's not even the creator's name on it. It basically, so I'm not quite sure. Sabat Magazines. So this is designed by the creator on behalf of Sabat Magazine, maybe. Bear with the screeching noise, okay? Just close your ears, or if you're if you're wearing an earphones or headphones. There you go. So let's see if it's black all around as well. Beautiful, beautiful, like so. So the name of the creator is not until here. So it says artist Elisa Seitzinger. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. I hope that's. And Sabat, and revised and extended. Le Tarot de l'Étoile Cachée, the writer, graphic designer, creative director. So there's a team of people here. Editorial assistant, editorial intern, printer in London, paper, pop set ultra black, typeface is Larish Altera d'Impesco, published September 2020, copyright Dreadful Press 2020. Okay, so right, interesting. So the copyright is Dreadful Press. So the so there's artist, writer, and graphic designer. So that's interesting that there's an artist and a graphic designer and a creative director. So anyway, this is probably it reminds me very much of how Scarlet Imprint produced a deck, right? So let's have a look at what. So this is in silver. You might not be very obvious there, but it's all black with silver. Absolutely just beautiful. So Palm Grossman, Ex Tenebris Lux. What's Le Bateleur? La Papesse. It says, what does it say? High Priestess. It's a complicated character, and that's what makes her so intriguing. She is the bride of spirit and soul. She's pure and otherworldly. So there's missing an R, I suppose. And yet she's also generative, sustaining life. In this case, a flower, pomegranate, and an egg. From her very being, she's closely linked with the other deities of parthenogenesis, and her crescent cradle is reminiscent of the Virgin of Guadalupe. That is true, the Mexican version of Mother Mary. She may seem distant and removed at times, but that is because she's gestating, about to bring forth the highest vibration there is. She's also highly receptive. So some mistake her as being passive. However, she's actually drawing energy and magic inward, which takes much skill. As with all the life-giving creatures, she must make sure of to feed herself, and in La Papesse's case, her food comes in the form of knowledge. The book in her lap represents wisdom, study, and holy word. This is a card that tells you to nourish your mind and your soul and to do your homework before starting a new creative pursuit. It's a message of preparation, of devotion, of bowing before the muse. In doing so, you will birth great gifts and step into your own grand power. So it's not so much meaning, I stand corrected. It is what the card is about, the story of the card. So I do appreciate that. But as you can see, it doesn't go into the nitty-gritty detail of what is she holding and why she's holding it, etc. So, and it makes sense, I suppose, once you see the creative team spread between designer, creative director, and writer are 3 different people. I suppose the artist was given a brief and then she just go for it, I suppose. So that explains that a little bit. And so I suppose it gives us room to use our own interpretive imagination. Sorry, I'm just a bit sore on the floor here, so I'm just moving my legs, and I think it's making a bit of noise against the wooden floor here. So that's the Empress. This is the Emperor holding a selfie stick with a device there. So I quite like the cheek and the fun in incorporating 21st century reality into this ancient depictions of things, and the etching feels ultra modern as well, with the sharp angles, the sharp lines, and the sort of metallic gray silvery color, quote unquote. And this is 7. So you see the face up front, and also it goes this way, it looks that way, and this way as well. This is Justice. I like that it's holding, I think it looks like what looks like a gun on the right hand side instead of a sword. So again, that modern kind of sort of stabbing into this heart. The Write-Up of Justice by Robin Scott always stays with me. It's a sword of mercy, but it's unwielding, it's unsurrendering, but it's also mercy. The Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune there. You can see the monkey, you can see the Sphinx, you can see this one here. So the traditional depiction of it is there. I like that the force or strength remains 11. So this is part of the reason why I like a TDM based decks, because I prefer the pre-esoteric at the moment. I prefer pre-esoteric tarot. So that's before the French occultists got to it in the 1700s. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just where I'm at right now. Interesting that there's money coming down here, sort of reminiscence of when they say Judas hung himself, you know, the silver pieces, however many silver pieces of silver coins, etc. You see this, what look like maybe beehives, I'm not sure, what looks like bees. Perhaps those are the symbol of others, the infinity symbol, I don't know. Shall we take a look? Let's have a look. I forgot to turn off my phone, sorry guys. La Pendule, waiting, surrender, perspective shift. The Hangman may seem like a card of discomfort at first. After all, who wants to be hung upside down and blindfolded? Well, maybe with the right partner. See what I mean by being a bit cheeky? Here, La Pendule is presumably alone, surrounded only by his worldly possession falling out of his pocket and a few winged companions. Okay, so they are. He is in the state of suspension and surrender, like the Norse god Odin hanging from the world tree. So that association has often been made. Receiving knowledge of the runes, material goods, illusions, and ego markers must be let go of, so that he may focus on his true self and the lessons that are coming his way. This is a message about meditation, about taking time out to contemplate. He may be hitting the pause button, but this is an active inaction. Sometimes the most important work is in the not doing, the not deciding, marinating, gestating, simmering in one's own spiritual juices. As such, this is the chrysalis card. Yes, there is waiting, but it is not inertia. Sometimes immobility is the only way we can encounter a new perspective and come to a new awareness. If you are someone who is a fixer, endurer, a make shit happener, this can feel excruciating. Oh yes, there may be a bit of sacrifice to be sure, some loss of false anchors. You may even turn yourself so topsy-turvy that you're going to have to rethink your entire approach when you come back to standing. But now is not the time to know, now is the time to be. So again, not very specific, but enough, and there's just room for you to think about it. So about it further, there's space for your own interpretation and your own stories, I suppose. So I suppose maybe that's not a beehive, that's a chrysalis, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. So it can be anything, right? I mean, if you approach tarot the way I do, which is visually in terms of imagery, in terms of story, and in terms of poetry, then it can be whatever it is at any given time. So that's death. And the Roman numeral is not all in one place. So just now I've actually shuffled this card, and when I try to put them back together again, I actually have to hunt for it. Not a big deal at all. I mean, for me, it's not an issue at all. I don't really reorder my cards anyway, just to do this video. So for example, up here, and then I have to look, and then it's down here, and then it's up there. So it is all done very aesthetically. It's incorporated into the, and I appreciate that actually. It's probably not the most functional way of doing it, but it is the most aesthetically pleasing, and I'm all for it. And so I'm quite fascinated. This is probably the most, it encapsulated the most that sense of sharp lines on metal sort of feel to the aesthetic here. And these people look like they're wearing masks, a lot of them. There's a star. You see this? It just feels like etching on metal. I keep thinking of etching on metal, and I keep thinking that I have something like this. It's very familiar. It's as if I have seen this feeling before. This very crisp line etched on metal, or on silver to be precise. I love the many eyes of this angel here, because and there's this the Russian crucifix there on the trumpet. In the olden days, apparently people are buried in the churchyard, right? And so everyone is facing the priest or the pastor. So the pastor will be buried facing the congregation, and the congregation will be buried facing the pastor, just as in church he will be the shepherd who will guide you in the afterlife, so etc. etc. I'm very amused by this bucket head person here, and she's holding something, and this very not very distinct figure, very abstract almost, with the eyes there. Don't know whether that eyes is in the back of his head, whether that's part of the trumpet. Who knows? It can be whatever you want it to be if you use these images like me. And so you have what looks like what is this? So lion, this is the ox or the bull or whatever. Is that the hawk? And the angel or the human. And then there's the world is very much in